This is Talking Points Season 2, powered by the Plank Center.
We're your hosts, Tamarra, Thal,
Zane, Landin,
and Sunny Franks Miller.
We'll be bringing you exclusive conversations with both emerging and seasoned professionals to talk about various topics associated with our Plank Center resource guides, which are free on the Plank Center website, by the way.
From tips for their younger selves to how they made big moves, you'll hear it all from the brightest minds in the field.
This season's theme is cracking the code to workplace confidence. In the upcoming episodes, we'll talk with some of the leaders of our field about how they sometimes struggled with that dreaded imposter syndrome, grew past self-doubt, and how even the best among us might still need a little bit of reassurance every now and again.
So join us every week as we shine a light on the new voices in our field, learn from industry experts, and talk about the future we aim to build together.
Thanks for listening. Welcome to another episode of the Plank Center's podcast, Talking Points. We're your hosts, Zane, Landin,
And Tamarra, Thal.
Wonderful. So our theme for this season is based on confidence, all about cracking the code to workplace confidence. And confidence can be both learned and practiced, turning workplace competency into an authentic, influential presence. But of course, change doesn't happen overnight, and it's important to give yourself grace as you personalize your approach to gaining more confidence, where it eventually becomes a part of your everyday presence. I'm really excited to share it today. We're speaking with Brandi Boatner, Manager, Digital and Advocacy Communications at IBM.
So I just wanted to give a little bit more context on Brandi. So I actually have the pleasure of working with Brandi at IBM. But I will say, before officially meeting her, I knew so many positive things about her because I promise you her personal brand is just so strong. And just to give a little bit background on her, Brandi is an award-winning digital communications, public relations, social media professional, and a prolific public speaker based in New York. She's part of IBM's corporate affairs function on the social brand and influence team for global influential marketing. She also serves as a chair for the PRSA Tri-State District, and she's a member of the executive committee for the PRSA Westchester Fairfield chapter. And if it isn't enough, she's also on the board of directors for the New York Women in Communications, serving as the current president-elect. And if at this point she doesn't sound so impressive, Brandi is also the two-time Hall of Famer that speaks all around the U.S. and the world on a variety of industry and marketplace topics. So, Brandi, welcome to our podcast. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you so much, Tamarra. It's so weird when people read my bio. I'm like, oh my God, when does she sleep? And then I ask myself, girl, you don't sleep. So it's just funny to hear that back. But thank you and Zane for having me as a guest on today's show.
Perfect. So let's go ahead and kick things off.
Sure.
Could you start, Brandi, by walking us through your career and how you got to where you are now?
I mean, we don't have enough time on that podcast, so I will give listeners the abridged version. So I have been at IBM 14 and a half, almost 15 years. It'll be 15 years in January. And it's the only place I've ever worked. It's my first big girl job out of college. And so it's funny, some people will say, Brandi, where did you work before IBM? I was like, I was in college. And they're like, wait, what? This is the only, I'm like, yeah, this is the only job I've had. This is the only job I know as a geriatric millennial. And I wear that badge proudly. A lot of my friends kind of job hopped at agency and in-house, and I've just been at one place my whole career. And so I started, what's funny, I came into the IBM company in what at the time was called Global Business Services, our consulting business, as an external relations doing PR and social, because that's what I went to school for. And funny enough, today with global influencer marketing, I support consulting. So I've done like a 360 in 15 years. The very function I started supporting with PR, digital, and social is the very function I support with PR, digital, and social 15 years later. So I've had other roles. I did a stint in marketing for a few years. When I started at IBM, and Tamarra is fortunate enough that she didn't have to endure this, but when I started almost 15 years ago, marketing and comms was one function. Then we split, and now we're back together. So under corporate affairs, at least that's where we sit. And when the split happened, I was like, well, I'm a comms girly. I can't go to marketing, because at the time, and I don't know if any of you or anybody listening to the podcast, at the time, marketing was all about the 5 Ps or 4 Ps, like price, place, promo. I don't know. Now it's like 3 S's, 2 Ds. I don't know like what they're teaching now. But I was like, I'm a comms girl. I can't really do marketing. And so you don't like do marketing. You can understand the fundamentals of marketing and apply from a communications lens what you do. And that's what I did when I was in that role for 5 years. But I was yearning to get back into comms because I'm a comms girl. I'm
Right.
like, I'm the poster child for PRSA. Like I'm like, I need to get back into PR. And so with just the influx and just the rise that influencers have had and the role that they play. And, we're fortunate at IBM that our chief communications officer, Sarah Marin, realizes the importance of relationships and how relationships matter. And I always say, as PR people, we're in the relationships business. And
Mhm.
so I am grateful that I get to do what I do. But I love that I've had a full circle moment, kind of starting in comms with consulting and coming back 15 years later in supporting consulting and just all the things in between. Really, I've learned, I learned so much from the marketing function. But I would always tell them, I am not a marketer. Like, please, let's not. They'd be like, yeah, Brandy's a marketing professional. I'm like, no, so I'm just visiting. Like, I don't live here in marketing.
Right.
I'm visiting marketing. But they were, I learned a lot and I just applied that, like I said, from a PR communications lens. And it's a really nice thing for me to say I've had a 15, year career at one place.
That's awesome.
It is. It's fun.
Wonderful. Thank you for telling us about your career. I'm kind of curious on how you kind of developed your sense of confidence when you kind of changed geographically, when you got your master's from Hawaii and you went all the way to New York City, like a
Yeah.
big media hub. So what was it like? Was it overwhelming? How did that feel?
Well, Zane, let's just back up before I left Hawaii to go to New York. So I'm from New Orleans originally. So my undergrad degree I have from Loyola University, New Orleans. That's where I'm in the Hall of Fame. PR girly, my PR degree there. But I'm part of the Katrina class. So you all may or may not remember Katrina was 19 years ago,
Mhm.
right as I was gonna start school. So it was like a whole thing. So when Katrina happened, the German government extended invites to bring students over to Germany to continue their education. And I was one of 10 Loyola students who went to Germany. So even before I went to Hawaii, I lived in Europe first. So it's just funny looking at my time in Europe and then Hawaii and then New York. So that's so Europe was absolutely amazing, but you have to understand the mindset I was in. Katrina was one of the worst things to happen. My family and I lost everything, our house, my childhood home, photos, everything. It was literally the worst. I just wanted to get out of New Orleans and get out of the United States because it was just such a traumatic experience to go through the hurricane. And we evacuated. I was not one of the ones who was rescued. If anyone remembers the images of people getting rescued from on top of their homes because their houses were flooded, that was not my family, thankfully. But the house where we were in, we evacuated to Mississippi. When Katrina made landfall, she actually made landfall in Mississippi. People think that she made landfall in New Orleans. She didn't. I mean, got a huge brunt of the water and the levees broke. But in Mississippi, where I was, where the hurricane made land, the house we were staying in, the roof blew off while we were in the house. So
Oh my
I was
gosh.
like in the hurricane, like literally in the hurricane. It is again incredibly traumatic. When people say that phrase paralyzed with fear, I couldn't move. My mother was like screaming. My dad and my uncle were like trying to like get us like out of, because the roof blew off. Like it was just such a like you were in a movie, right? But I could not move. I literally was like terrified. Literally terrified. I was like, "Oh, I'm going to die." At least I'm with my family, but I'm like going to die. It was just awful. So going to Europe, I was in the headspace that I just wanted to get away from what I had just been through. So I wasn't really looking to like do anything other than not be in New Orleans. You know what I mean? Like, of course, I had to go to I had to go to class, and like I met people and I did like really great stuff. But I was just like, get me out of the U.S. Like, I don't even want to be in the U.S. because it was just so traumatic, and I had to process everything I had been through. And I can honestly tell you, if you're going through a traumatic experience, trying to process that in Germany is a good thing. Language different culturally, like if I needed my space, but people really understood what I had been through. So it wasn't like, oh, let's bombard her with things. It was like, wow, she just really went through something super traumatic and she's like fun and smiling and like happy. What's wrong with her? So I got a lot of opportunities and just a little growth, but I really had to heal. I really needed time to heal when I was in Germany. So then when I left Germany and got accepted into the grad program in Hawaii, again, I didn't want to go back to New Orleans. I needed to just do something else. And so I was like, oh, well, I'm going to go to Hawaii, continue on PRSSA. Oh my gosh, I'm going to run for president. Oh my gosh, I'm going to do all these things. And so I did and became PRSA national president when I was in Hawaii. I say all that to say, back to your question, Zane, it was incredibly overwhelming to go from Hawaii to New York. I've only been in warmer climates. I'm from New Orleans, living in Hawaii. Germany, I was, of course, snow and winter. So I experienced that. But when I moved to New York from Hawaii, my manager at the time had to tell my mom and I, now I'm going to say this on this podcast because it's a safe space, but I want all the listeners to know when I started at IBM, my mom came to New York to get me settled and we met. She requested a meeting with my manager. She was like, I'd like to take you to coffee because I need to understand what Brandi will be working on. And so when I told him my mom wanted to meet him, he was like, wait, what? Your mom wants to know what you're working on? And I'm like, yeah, my mother would like to meet you. And so my mom met him. And so he was like, okay, she's going to need Ugg boots. He was telling her all the warm clothing I would need because I didn't have any. Who has Uggs in Hawaii? Nobody has Uggs in Hawaii. Okay, some people do, but they think that's cute and it's not because there's no snow. It's just not cute. So he gave her all the things that I would need in a winter climate. And so my first winter, so I started at IBM in January. In February, I got pneumonia. Just because my body, it was I went in shock. My body was in shock with the snow and I wouldn't tell anybody at IBM that I had pneumonia because I was like, it's my first month. I'm going to get fired because I'm so sick. And so finally, one of my coworkers, also on the comms team, a mom of two, she was like, I think I need to bring you to the hospital because you don't look good. You don't, and I'm like, I'm fine. Literally dying. I'm like, I'm fine. She's like, no, you're not fine. So she brought me we ended up going to the ER because I was really sick. But I just was like, no, I can't get fired from this job. It's my first job out of college. Needless to say, IBM is not the kind of place if you get pneumonia, you will get fired. So clearly, here I am 15 years later. But yes, Zane, it was overwhelming. It was a culture shock to my body and to me just coming from Hawaii to Manhattan. But I will tell you this, Manhattan agrees with me, New York agrees with me because despite my Southern roots and upbringing, oh my gosh, I really feel like I'm living my best Gossip Girl life. I love living here, but it was an adjustment for sure.
And Brandi, you are a jet setter. I know, and I'm so sad we couldn't record this while you were in London,
I
but
know.
I know you were working there for a few, and I bet there was so much you learned from that experience as well.
London was transformational. I have shared with everybody. And I'm gonna be honest, and I think I might have told you tomorrow, I'm having a really hard time getting back into my New York life, having had my London experience, because it was so profound and it was so transformational for me in ways that I just didn't expect it to be. I am really having trouble leaving that love for London and bringing it. I text my London friends every day. I am with the London IBM colleagues that I talking to them, slacking with them. I miss them so much. I was on a call yesterday for Think London. I'm helping with Think London and I'm like, I miss you guys. What are you guys doing right now? What is everybody doing right now? And I made them each go around and tell me what they were doing. I miss them so much. I just didn't anticipate that. So I am struggling with it a bit because I had such a phenomenal time. Now, this is how rumors get started. Tamarra, I am not looking to move to London. I am not looking to move. I'm not trying to move there. I didn't meet a man. There is no Hugh Grant for Brandi. None of that. It's just, I felt lighter in London. I felt freer in London. And I just really enjoyed my life in London. And I just want that a little bit more here.
Don't we all, though, honestly?
I just
Well,
really want
speaking, yeah, honestly, Randy, if I could have went with you, I would have. But so speaking of global, and I love that you got that experience. So you lead global influencer marketing strategies. What practices do you use to maintain, build, and sort of nurture your relationships with your external and social media influencers?
Absolutely. So while I was in London, I had lunch and dinner with 3 of my influencers because they're
Oh,
based
wow.
in London. And again, as you said, Tamarra, I lead global influence. So I don't just have influencers in the US, they're all over the world. So if I'm in London, of course I'm going to see my influencers. But as a good communications professional, as a good PR person, going back to what I said about relationships that matter, I would be a fraud if I was over there and I didn't see them. I have a relationship with them. Not only, is IBM a partner of theirs and we work with them, but I'm invested in their success and the success of their brand, how they can help the IBM brand and my own brand. Like I have like really cool
Mhm.
influencer friends. Like they do amazing work. And so I think what I've learned as a communications professional, just like you treat a relationship with a reporter, you don't just go to a reporter when you have great news to share. Sure, absolutely that, but you have to cultivate that relationship. And if any of us have learned in PR, it's mutually beneficial relationships. I mean, it doesn't have to always generate to something. It's like human to human. How do you have a relationship? So I take my relationships with the influencers very seriously. I am very guarded. And it's funny, it's like a joke on my team. One of my colleagues, maybe Tamarra Ryan, he'll say, I know this is like one of your influencers, but like, can I email this person and like talk to them? Because he knows I am just really like, why are you talking to my influencer? And I say my influencer. I mean, they can talk to anybody, but I just have such good relationships with them.
Mhm.
It just means the world to me. But that's what any good communications PR professional will tell you, that relationships matter and how critical they are.
I love that advice. And actually have a follow-up sort of to your broader experience in your roles at IBM. So in the past, we've talked about this. You've had so many roles, and part of which, a lot of them, you actually created yourself. I kind of wanted to hear a little bit more about this. It takes a great deal of confidence to sort of like get to that point where you can just do that. Can you share some tips for those of us who want to, create our own path and actually
Yes.
be the drivers of our, roles within our companies?
Absolutely. One, you definitely should be thinking of how you create your own path, because there's no handbook
Mm-hmm.
that says this is the right way. If there's a handbook to life, how to navigate life 101, here's what you should do. If that exists, please show it to me, because I want to be like, who wrote this? Where
Right.
did you get this from? Because there's just no right or wrong way. There's your way. And so what I did, I identified within our function gaps where I saw things were just not connecting the dots. And I was like, well, why don't we do A and B? And if you don't ask, you don't know. Like, so I'm, okay, I asked the question, why don't we have some role that looks at the digital experience someone goes through via social or web when they come to IBM? I couldn't understand, because the web team at the time was like, we got to get web traffic. And I'm like, that's great. But like, what about Twitter? And like, what about like other, like, what, like, I couldn't understand. So I just asked a question. Well, Brandi, that like, we don't have a role like that. Okay, great. Well, I want to do that. I want to do it. I know what I know. I have expertise in the social media domain. You're telling me we don't have someone already doing this. I want to do it. So I drafted up what my role and responsibilities would be, presented it to someone who wasn't even my manager at the time. She was just somebody I was having a conversation with. Actually, she was on the web team. I was having a conversation with, and I was like, this doesn't add up. Like, I don't understand why we don't do this. And so I presented it to her. She was like, we can like create this role and you should come work for me. And I was like, what? You're not even, girl, you're not my manager. Like, what do you mean I should come work for you? And so luckily, my manager at the time actually got tapped to be the speechwriter for the CEO at the time. And so she was like, well, I'm leaving the team. And I was like, ooh, she's leaving? Maybe I can leave too and go join this other person's team. And that's exactly what happened. If you don't ask, you won't know. If you don't take the risk, honestly, the worst thing that could have happened in that situation is she could have said no, or my manager could have said no. But serendipitously, my manager was leaving, so I was like, oh, I can change teams too. And so I did that. Then I was in that role that was made up for 5 years. It was great. I learned a lot, but I wanted to get back into comms. I had so many conversations with comms with some people that you know, Tamarra, that are actually on your comms team. And I was like, I got to get back. What can I do? I got to get back. And they were like, oh, go talk to this person and this person. Once again, identifying gaps that the comms team had and how what I learned in marketing, I could apply that to come back into comms. And that's exactly what I did. And I made up that role. Great. Had that role for 2 years. Here comes another role. Our chief marketing officer needed either our agency or someone to be her like internal PR person, right? Why would we pay the agency for the brand, right? We have our PR agency to help us pitch and do things for the IBM company, not for individuals. That's like a little like, it feels a little like slimy to be like, get your PR firm to promote your, like, it just feels weird. So they were like, no, we need somebody internal to do that. Raise my hand. I'll do it. And that way you give me a new title and I'll make up a job because I'll do it. Listed out so thus became my brand comms manager role, supporting our chief marketing. If you don't take the risk and you don't ask, you're never going to get it. Nobody sits up at night other than my mother asking, what can I do for Brandi? How can I further progress Brandi's career? What would be good for Brandi? Nobody wakes up at night thinking these things about me. I wake up at night thinking these things about me. So if I'm not going to ask the question and I'm not going to advocate for myself, I promise you nobody else is going to do that. So what's the worst they can tell me? No, Brandi, you can't do it. So going back to like the overall theme of the podcast around confidence, you have to have confidence in yourself because again, our parents love us and they have confidence in us, but that's like a given. They like create us and stuff. They're like the givers of our lives. My mother's the giver of my life. But like my coworkers and colleagues,
they can't read your mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't know.
You have to put yourself out there. And I love your point about the worst they can say is no, because at the worst of even that, at least now they know what your goals are, what you want to do. And so when other opportunities come up, they can forward your name or put you in contact with someone. So I love that advice.
Exactly. It's just a no. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Nobody said, you know what's like what you need to panic about if someone's like, well, your time here is over. That's time to like freak out, right? Because I'm like, ooh, rent is due. How am I gonna? That's when you start freaking out. But when someone says, no, I don't think you can do, my life isn't over. And trust me, when you tell me no, then I will trust and believe I'll find something else. I will find another way. Trust me.
And that's how you do it. Yep.
Trust me, I will.
Thanks for that advice.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it seems super exciting, like all the roles you'd be able to create or like pave the path for yourself. But I'm sure that there's been pushback or there's been those moments where maybe you didn't feel confident or there was that pushback. How did you navigate those moments and build your workplace confidence?
Zane, and like I'm not even like I'm not pulling your leg. I have not had pushback with the roles that I've created or what have you. Have I had challenges? Absolutely. Do I know everything? No. But I haven't had pushback. In terms of confidence, it's not that I have lost confidence, but I've been in some incredibly challenging situations that have threatened to dim the light within me. Okay? Confidence, I know what I know. I know who I am. I am very clear about who I am as an incredible Black woman. Trust and believe I know that. But there have been instances I have been in where it is so challenging, it gets dark and my light goes dim. Doesn't go out. Because no matter how dark it gets, I will always find my light. Trust that.
I love that.
Okay? So with the confidence and not a pushback, but challenges, and we all go through them. Whether you're working in corporate America or a startup, whether you're a barista at Starbucks, because they really going through it right now, regardless of what you do, you're going to face challenges. That's just life. That's the way it works. People will try to dim your light. Situations outside of your control will try to dim your light. How you overcome that and overcome those challenges, I wouldn't even call them setbacks. I wouldn't even call it, like you said, a lack of confidence, but you have to overcome because you don't want your light to get dimmed. You don't want someone to minimize you because they look at you a certain way or the situation is something that you can't control. You just have to say, you know what? I know me better than anybody else, and I got this. I will figure it out. It'll be hard as all heck to do it because it's a challenge, but I will figure this out. And you know what? I'll be better for it once I do. My advice.
I love that. Yeah, having your internal like identity as your North Star, that'll always keep you confident in your light, at least shining a little bit. It may go down, like you said, but it will never go out.
Dim.
Yeah.
Not going out.
I love that. And so, sort of speaking of challenges, and this is our last question for you, Brandi, but I wanted to sort of keep it broad and open it up to like those of us who are facing confidence issues. So, what are some common challenges you see in the workplace? Have you noticed anything in others, and how do you identify them and just mitigate these challenges?
Yeah, so I see just from, from PRSSA to PRSA to coming in the workplace, I see a lot of people at various stages, but it really starts high school and then into college. I see a lot of imposter syndrome, like a lot in both young men and women. I see it. It is like it kind of starts high school, junior, senior, but really when you get to college, it is like it goes rampant because you're surrounded by people who come from all different walks of life and experiences, and you're always holding yourself to some standard, either your friends, people you know in class, and it just allows you a chance to not focus on your authenticity and what you bring because you're surrounded by so many people. You're like, oh, well, my roommate does this. Oh, and when you get in college, the vulnerability, I don't know who teaches you, oh, it's a weakness. Oh, you can't be vulnerable. Oh, you can't, and all the stuff. And so I see that. And then you graduate and you get in the workplace and you think that imposter syndrome goes away. No, just because you get a paycheck, it gets worse. It's like, oh my goodness.
I need this.
Right? So I see that a lot in the workplace. I also see, and I have had multiple conversations with colleagues and students, I also see forms of what is called covering, downplaying, a stigma about yourself, of what's the term when you like you cover, you downplay, some people code switch. I see that a lot in the workplace, and it just
I've given up on that.
Yeah, exactly. I've said to someone, I don't show up half of Brandi, and I don't want to work with someone that is showing up as half themselves because I don't have the time to figure out which half of you I'm dealing with. I don't have time to figure out who are you today? I don't have time for that. I'm me every day. I want you to be you every day. So I see people, oh, I gotta like tone it down when I come to work. IBM is so serious. Oh, it's so. Please don't tone anything down because I can't. I just cannot deal with it. So I see things like that. What I say when I tell people, just be yourself. Be yourself. The work will get done. Your expertise, you got here, you work here, you're hired. Who's taking that away from you? Nobody who comes into work is like, I'm going to strip you of all your expertise. Like, nobody says that. Nobody does that. So you see, listen, imposter syndrome is an emotional disorder. If you can identify the triggers, you can overcome it. You can beat it because you'll start realizing, imposter syndrome setting in. Let that devil not whisper in my ear, on my shoulder, what's going on. So I think how you deal with confidence is it's really self-discovery. You've got to know yourself and you got to be honest. I'm going to tell y'all, Zane and Tamarra, Brandi has had some very serious conversations with Brandi. Like serious conversations. Like Brandi and Brandi, we have had, I'll be like, girl, now you know. And she'll be like, I know you're not trying to tell me. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you. Like, it's uncomfortable because there's just some realities and I do some things and I'm like, girl, why did you do that? And then I be telling myself, who you to tell me? It's like, no, we're not doing this today. Right. You have to have some serious conversations with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself. We tell ourselves some of the most, like the biggest fiction, I'm talking Jackie Collins novels that you could ever imagine. And I'm like, why are you lying? What you lying to yourself for? You know what is and what isn't. So when you think about it and you look at those hard conversations, you have to have self-discovery and self-awareness and just be true to you. Because like you said, you know you best. You will guide you. Sure, you can get input from others, but at the end of the day, it lies on you and within you.
Mhm. I love your point about blocking out those negative thoughts because honestly, this applies to every aspect of your life. When you think about the psychology of it, if you're constantly telling yourself, "Oh, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. It won't work out." You're
Man,
gonna internalize
do
it.
that, and you will do that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah, cutting out imposter syndrome. Oof, thank you for bringing that up because it's real.
It is very
And you just
real.
have to block out those thoughts. Yeah.
You do. And if anybody needs daily affirmations, I am happy to text you and call you and tell you you are a badass, you're crushing it, you're killing it every single day. Because you are.
Can I get that text every morning, please, actually?
Yeah, legitimately. Yes. Yes. What else we got? I think we lost Zane. I'm not sure where.
Oh, I think we lost.
It's a good way
We
to
were just
pause.
gonna go into the rapid.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's a pause point.
Yeah, actually. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah. I'll just do the rapid fire, and if he comes back, you can jump in. Um, so those are actually our questions for you, Brandi, but I will surprise you. We had some rapid fire prepared for you. Are you ready for these questions?
I think so. You never know with rapid
You'll be
fire.
fine.
I think.
Okay, so first question, if you could instantly become an expert in something, what would it be?
Linguistics.
Ooh, I love that.
I
Okay,
was thinking that the other day. I speak a couple of languages, but I want to be fluent in like all languages, so linguistics.
that's such a good one. And you're global, so that is so fitting. What's your favorite app on your phone or computer?
Ooh. Find my iPhone, Baskin Robbins, Uber Eats. I think those are, I have so many, but those are, find my iPhone because I have like my mom's location. I can find her too.
Yeah.
I be looking for her and stuff. So that's a good one. Target. Girl, I love my Target app.
Essential.
Yes, it's so good. It's just so good. Insta, because I want to Insta all the time. Those are probably my favorite. Those are the ones that I like. Yeah.
Okay. What's a recent piece of digital media that stuck out to you?
Define digital media.
That's a good question. Digital media as in any recent ads you've seen or like anything like online that you've seen that's impressed you or movie, any sort of like digital content.
I love to watch Netflix trailers, but on YouTube, just because I think they're just so well done. So I live for that. In terms of like ads and campaigns, Google has been coming out with some interesting, not about their AI, just about the Pixel and the phone and how you can capture really good. I love digital media that I like. I like very visually literate ads or visuals, not just like wow, but visually literate that you can actually consume and understand. And the Pixel, how they do like the human and they show you like the before, the app, like that is just so visually literate. I love stuff like that. Because it's just like relatable. And who doesn't want to take a good photo? And I love me a good photo.
Right. Ooh, okay. What's your favorite movie or TV quote?
Favorite movie, Clueless and The Parent Trap. Favorite TV quote? No,
Great
movie
ones.
quote. I like a lot of things from The Princess Bride, and there was one thing when Andre the Giant, he kept rhyming, and the Vicente told him, "Stop that rhyming, I mean it." And Andre the Giant goes, "Anybody want a peanut?" It's like, I love that. And so my mom and I do that. I'll tell her, I'll go, "Stop that rhyming, I mean it." And she'll go, "Do you want a peanut?"
Oh my gosh.
Love that quote. It's so funny. It's so funny.
I love that. What's the most memorable gift you've ever received?
Ooh, purple roses. They're very hard. Purple's my favorite color. They're very
Ooh.
hard. They only grow in a certain time, like early spring. They're super expensive because I was like, I got it as a gift, and I was like, oh, I'll treat myself. And then I was like, he spent how much money? But purple roses they're just gorgeous. They made me so happy. They're very expensive. They're rare. They're not, you see roses in pink, white, red, yellow, not purple. They're beautiful.
Ooh, purple's my favorite color too. Now I have to go look for that.
Purple
Thank
roses
you.
are very rare. They're very rare.
If you were to be what you wanted to be when you were a kid, what would you be right now?
A pediatrician.
Ooh, okay.
I wanted to be a teacher and work with kids.
I love that. And then last one, what's your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
Spa, massage, Swedish. When I was in Sweden, in living in London, I spent the weekend. I flew to Stockholm, and I wanted to do two things. I wanted to get a Swedish massage in Sweden, and I wanted to eat Swedish meatballs. And so I went to the best hotel in Stockholm where Taylor Swift stayed when she was there, and I went to their spa. And they gave me a history lesson because I told them I specifically am here because I want this Swedish massage in Sweden. So they gave me a whole history lesson on the origin of Swedish massage, who came up with it, why, all the things. And so massage is a great way for me to unwind. Now I can't get massages like every day. I like rosé. I like really bad reality TV, especially if I've had a really challenging day. I just like to escape into the below deck world, into Real Housewives of Potomac. I just love just shade. Subtle shade, messy shade. It just makes me feel better. But yeah, those are the ways I, kind of unwind after anything for my self-care and to protect my peace. I'm into it.
Oh, that's so important, especially in today's world. You need that.
Mhm.
Well, those are all the questions we have for you, Brandi. Before we close out, do you have any last tips or words of advice you want to give to us young professionals?
All I can say is just stay true to you. Trust the process because it is all a process. Remember, in order for you to succeed, you have to fail. Failure is part of the equation. You cannot succeed at everything. If you don't fail it, during the process, you won't get to success. Failures are part of it. And if you need me, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you need me, you need that daily affirmation or what have you, because I am the biggest cheerleader for this next generation. I would be a total fraud if I didn't help give back, given where I am today. So trust yourself. Remember the Beyonce of the business world. Remember to embrace failure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brandi. This was a great conversation. We appreciate you sharing your journey and your perspective. To our listeners, we hope you enjoyed this conversation, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Talking Points. Thanks, Brandi.
Thank you.
Talking Points is powered by the Planck Center for Leadership and Public Relations. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or watch the video series on YouTube. You can follow the Planck Center on Instagram or LinkedIn at Planck Center PR for more content. Thanks for listening.